In the second part of my presentation, I shall be sharing with you the small and slow solutions that aid in mangrove conservation here at the Justice German Lee Jr. Nature Sanctuary. So there are three main ways in which we aid in the conservation of mangroves. First is through community engagement, second through growing bamboo, and third through the use of appropriate technology. In community engagement, there are three ways that we address this issue. First is by educating the public for self-reliance in terms of disasters. Second is by procuring mangrove seedlings from neighboring towns. And third, by getting plant donations from visitors to increase biodiversity. So how do we educate the public for self-reliance in disasters? We do it by enabling them to learn or relearn the lost wisdom. If we are to claim residency in this planet, we have to know what is in our planet, what is in nature. So who are the people who come here? Mostly they're teachers, mentors, peer mentors, and other faith-based groups. It's really giving them access to conservation education by giving them the opportunity to experience nature directly. So it could be through a scientific visit. There are students doing their studies and they come here and they want to learn about the mangroves, the insects, the animals. And then there are photographers also come so they can take photos of the creatures in nature. And then there are faith-based groups that want to experience Laudato Si. So they come here and they see the different animals here, from the insects, the crabs, and the monitor lizards. And for some people, it's their first time to actually see a monitor lizard. And there's every day we're discovering new insects and we're just learning what they are. And second, the learners come to see firsthand what are the types of mangroves, the native trees, the beech forests, and we are very proud to say that we grow some breadfruit, which many people haven't seen. We show them also how they can actually process the breadfruit. So it's kind of like a plant-to-table experience. Third, we teach them what to do when there is a disaster by teaching them how to make shelters using coconut fronds. We also give them an opportunity to learn basic necessary skills, so when there's a disaster, we don't have to wait for other people to help us. We can help ourselves. And so this is how we engage the people, by educating them about self-reliance. Next is we engage the community, our neighboring town, by getting our mangroves from them, because it's just the same types of mangroves grow in the area and it's very accessible. And lastly, we engage the community by welcoming them to visit the sanctuary, and then in turn they give us plant donations where they can leave a legacy to add to the biodiversity in the sanctuary. So the community that we're in are able to visit and experience the sanctuary. So there is a mutually beneficial relationship between us and the community. So the second solution that we have that aid in mangrove conservation is by growing bamboo. So what does growing bamboo have anything to do with mangroves? We believe that bamboo is an excellent substitute for mangrove wood, because in the past people would actually cut the mangroves in order to use them as wood. So we do this in three ways: through bamboo education, by replacing mangroves as firewood, and by replacing mangroves as a sustainable construction material. We grow different kinds of bamboo in the sanctuary, and people who come can see that there's many kinds of bamboo. So we have kawayang tinik, kayali, black bamboo, Chinese bamboo, Japanese bamboo, and other varieties that we are still propagating. We process our own bamboo through the sea channel, and people love the beauty of the bamboo, and we educate them that there are also many uses of bamboo, mainly as a substitute for mangroves as firewood. So we propagate the bamboo. We teach basic bamboo propagation, and then the people who visit also help us in planting and cleaning up the bamboo. Next is we teach them that bamboo is a sustainable construction material, so they don't have to cut mangroves. So our mangrove pavilion is actually made of bamboo. The doors, the gates, and our mangrove walkways are made of bamboo, and our other structures in the sanctuary. And we even have bamboo bicycles. The next solution we have is by using appropriate technology to aid in mangrove conservation. So what do we do here? We use appropriate technology first to prevent the discharge of sewage water to the mangrove area. And second, we use fuel-efficient stoves using mangrove wood substitutes. Okay, so how do we prevent the discharge of sewage water? First, we all know that in our kitchens we discharge water. So the water that comes out of the kitchen is called gray water. And we do not throw this water into the mangrove area. We filter it through a replication of the riverbed with a drain field. So as you can see here, this is where we filter our water. There's a riverbed with different sizes of stones and gravel for filtration, and there's a drain field at the end. And then you can see how beautiful our filter bed is. And on the right side is our flourishing edible wastewater garden, because all the water from the kitchen, if thrown to the sea, is just waste and create bad health for the mangroves. But here we use it to grow our plants. So that's one way. And the second way of preventing sewage water discharge is by using dry composting toilets. So since we don't have a public sewage system in our area, so we have been using composting toilets for 12 years. And the system is very simple. It looks like a regular toilet, but there's a separation between the liquid waste and the solid waste. The liquid waste is piped into a system where it goes to the plants, and the solid waste goes through a accumulation bucket where we cover it with sawdust or ash or dry leaves or even soil. And then once the bucket is filled up, we bring it to a maturing bin where the solid waste gets composted, and then after a few months we use it to fertilize our trees. So you can see we have two designs: the simple and yet beautiful composting toilets. Third, we also use a septic treatment plant for our regular toilets. So when we learn about how to make a septic treatment plant, we shifted from a composting toilet. Although we still have some composting toilet, we now have the regular flush toilet. And this is how we did it. We dug a big hole in the ground, and then we fortified the walls, and then we laid out the gravel bed so that it can stabilize the tanks that we put in. So this is how the tanks look like. They're connected to each other, and there is a filtration cartridge in each tank, and it replicates the riverbed system from gravel to different growing media, so that there is a breakdown of the pathogens by the beneficial microbes that grow in this growing media. So you can actually use charcoal, clay, sand, and then it has to be a succession from being the larger growing material, growing media, to the finer growing media. So at the very end you can put sand before letting the water flow into a drain field or a constructed wetland. So this is how the septic tank looks like. There's the barrel, and then inside there's the filter cartridge, and then there's the water goes to the drain pond, which is planted with edible plants or citrus plants. So citrus is good. So this is one design that we have, but we also have another septic treatment plant. And so there are two structures here, and we put another septic treatment plant. And this is how it looks like. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 septic tanks. So it's the same principle. We dug a hole, lay down the barrels, then connected them. And this one, as you can see, has a protective roof in order to maintain the integrity of the barrels. The water that's filtered goes into a small drain field, which we will be planting with edible plants. And so that's how we prevent discharge of sewage water to the mangrove area. Now we go to the use of fuel-efficient stoves using mangrove wood substitutes. So first of all, what is a rocket stove? So a rocket stove is a simple design where there is one-way airflow. As you can see in the diagram, there is a fuel shelf with the use of fuel using small twigs and branches that are naturally shed by the tree. So this is where we aid in mangrove conservation, because instead of cutting mangroves, they can just harvest the shed branches or use bamboo, just our previous solution. And then there's this magazine where you put the fuel, and then there's a combustion chamber. So the airflow goes one way, and then the heat goes directly to the cooking pot, unlike the traditional 3-stone stoves that people use. So by using fuel-efficient rocket stoves, we're actually preventing the cutting of mangroves for firewood, especially for people who live in the mangrove area. Other than bamboo or other shed material, the nice thing about rocket stove is that you can also use recycled paper and make paper briquettes. So it's so easy to make the paper briquettes. And we have even taught children how to make it. So it's just like play for them because it's very tactile. And in addition to the use of fuel-efficient rocket stoves, we also teach the learners that they can actually harvest food directly from the food forests or from the beech forests or from the native trees, and then they can process the food and do like a free-to-table thing. That's how we use appropriate technology to aid in the conservation of mangroves. As you can see, there are 3 simple solutions to aid in mangrove conservation, and let me summarize. In some, first is through community engagement, second through growing bamboo, and lastly through the use of appropriate technology. I would like to close this presentation by sharing with you a very popular folk song about a man who lives by the sea and the challenges that he meets, and how through mangrove conservation his life is uplifted. And perhaps that is the essence of my presentation, that you can gather that through mangrove conservation our lives can really be uplifted and we can thrive with mangroves. Thank you for your attention.
Si Filemon, namasul sa kadagatan, nakakuha, bulinaw perting gagmaya, gibaligya, sa merkadong guba. Kagamay sayang kita, igurang ipanuba. Ug miabot, ang bagyong perting kusgana, nangaguba, iyang payag dool sa dagat. Naanod pa, mga butang o binuhi. Paghapak sa dakong hangin, pagsagpa sa dakong balon, sampit na lang sa manunubo. Tungod atong dakong bagyo, dunay mitudlo sa ilang baryo. Na kung gani palabungon, katungganog ka mangroban. Mapanalipda ng baryo sa mga katalagman. Busa nagtanom sila busa nagtanom sila pagatpat og uban pa. O milabay, milabay, ang pila ka mga tuig, nilabong na, bungawon ko lasiog nipa. Pagbalik sa dakong bagyo, baryo ni Filemon luwas. Sukad niya to palambuon, panalipdan, padaghanon, mangrove ilang kaluwasan. Si Filemon, ug mga silingang mananagat, nagsabot pud sa paghimo, ug sanctuary sa dagat. Nidaghana, isdang dakop og tambok pa. Kini mga kaayuhan, makalipay man sa tanan, mga gasa sa kalikupan. Ug mo kini ang sugilanon sa pagkahimo ni Filemon nga higala sa katunggan.